Well, hello again, everyone. It's This Week in Agribusiness. Meteorologist Greg Soulje. We're in for Max Armstrong. Welcome to Farm Progress, Dateline Drought. Our continuing coverage of the drought of 2012 is brought to you by the fine folks at Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. Now, in the midst of this historic drought, while there's been some temperance of it and recharge in some select areas of the eastern plains and portions of the Corn Belt, I bet most are ready to see this summertime season officially depart and will, astronomically speaking, begin it Saturday morning at 9:29 of the Central Time Zone. And, of course, it is the fall equinox. You know what you do? You let it in, and that's the story. And it'll be rushed in, by the way, on a pretty healthy northwest wind of 20 to 25, maybe even gusts of 35 miles per hour in some open areas. So any other year would be quite talking about those wind speeds. It'd be merely academic with respect to certainly inspection and harvest operations. But this year may be a different story. As some of you have been able to testify to, there's been some sense of lodging in a more moderate brand of wind because of weakened stalks and root systems. So keep an eye on things as you resume harvest operations. Other folks are continuing on in such capacity this weekend. Others will likely have been shut down, and probably lingering moisture for the weekend, lake effect style, sections of Michigan, northern Indiana, and northern Ohio. And you bet you folks in northwest Wisconsin and up in the Arrowhead of Minnesota did see a wet snowflake move on by. Now, moving on through the next couple of weeks is at least a moderating trend in temperatures, and overall a somewhat more normal feel to those barn thermometer readings instead of the frost and brief light freeze potential into the plains, the central Corn Belt, especially areas of Indiana and Ohio come Monday. Over the weekend points to the west and northwest. That 6 to 10 day outlook from the folks of the Feds, generally in the right aim here of things, slightly below average, still lingering New England into the Ozarks to the Gulf Coast and in through the southeastern states. Look at the late season warm into the upper Midwest, northern plains, northern and central Rockies. Still some fire potential out there. Keep an eye on that. But there's good news in this outlook period from the 27th of September to, roughly the first couple of days of October. Look at the expansion of moisture into parts of the southern plains, the southwestern Corn Belt, winter wheat fields. No doubt we'll appreciate that. Much needed, well behind the eight ball with regard to planting operations across the Great Plains. Folks in the Pacific Northwest, though, have certainly made some good strides of late. Feds as well have talked about their extended outlook drought-wise through December. This is a little pessimistic from our vantage point, but optimism, and we agree, into much of the eastern and southern Corn Belt, and there will be improvement the way we see it out across sections of the Great Plains moving on through the next several weeks, if not beyond. That's a check on weather. Have a great weekend. We'll hope to see you on This Week in Agribusiness. Now on to Bryce Knorr and a look at markets.
It's hard to say much, if anything, good about a week when prices headed south like they did across the grain market this week. But Friday's close offered at least a bone or two for those who hope the worst is behind us. Soybeans, for example, gave back almost 7% for the week and saw persistent selling every time the market tried to rally most of Friday. But beans got one last push on the close when a late flurry of buying turned the market around, helping November futures post a bullish reversal higher on the day, closing up 3 at 16.21 3/4. There wasn't much news in the market to speak of one way or the other. That was certainly true for corn. While December futures held up better than beans, worries about demand hurt confidence. In addition to weak export sales, ethanol processor margins plunged on weaker DDGs and ethanol prices, though production was up last week and several plants have come back online. Next Friday's September 1st grain stocks report isn't expected to be friendly either. December futures closed 2.5 higher at 7.48 1/4, but has formed a bear flag on the chart that could break the market with a move below 7.39. Wheat went its own day for most of the session, providing support for the rest of the market. Futures moved above 50-day moving averages on hopes for exports caused by signal supplies out of the Black Sea are drying up. While officials in Russia gave out contradictory opinions, rail shippers in Ukraine will need export documents for shipments abroad, the type of red tape that could take the place of an outright ban. Chicago December ended up 17 3/4 at 879.5. Kansas City gained 16 3/4 to 929 1/4, and Minneapolis finished up 17 1/4 at 957 3/4. Keep up with the drought situation across the country by visiting www.datelinedrought.com.